Welcome into College Football Smothered and Covered right here on the Believe Network. My name is Barrett Salee. I appreciate you checking out the show here today. It's a busy show. It's a Thursday. We've got a lot headed into the weekend, and I'm excited to talk to you guys. Like I say every single week, College Football Smothered and Covered should be part of your viewing and listening rotation. I want you to view. I want you to listen. I want you to do everything in terms of college football in this world of new media, because we are here for you, whether it be Josh Pate or Bratton or SEC Unfiltered, all those guys. Definitely check those guys out because they deserve your attention. I hope you feel like I deserve your attention and you are neglected by the mainstream media. They don't like you. They don't like college football. They flat out ignore it during the offseason. But it is the offseason. Pardon Josh Pate. It is the season, although I said that there was no offseason 10 years ago. But that, nevertheless, we are here to cover everything going on in the world of college football 24/7, 365. If you like this show, please give us 5 stars. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that other stuff. If you don't like it, tell us why. Let me know what you don't like about this show, and I absolutely will use that constructive criticism to make it better for you. Got a busy show today. There was a little bit of news yesterday in terms of what the future of college football could look like, and it could look drastically different than what we see and what we have right now. We'll also play stock up, stock down. Of course, if you know radio, you know exactly what stock up and stock down means. We're going to take some ideas. We're going to take some teams. We're going to say, hey, you know what? They're on the way up, or they're on the way down. They're on the way down. Hey, you know what? Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. They have your viral t-shirts. If something pops up, they're going to have a t-shirt cranked out within an hour. And I tell you what, those guys are super creative. They also have legacy shirts. They've got shirts for Peyton Manning. They've got shirts for all of your favorite college football stars, as well as some of your favorite Major League Baseball stars, and really anybody in the world of sports. So go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. You can check those out. They do a tremendous job. Wear the moment. All right, let's get to the show. There's a lot happening in the world off the field. And this is one that I kind of felt was inevitable, but still bothers me a little bit. And it's from The Athletic. Inside the College Football Super League, one powerful group's idea to fix a dead system. All right. I'm going to run down what the gist of this is before actually getting into the nuts and bolts of how it could affect college football moving forward. So this group called College Sports Tomorrow, they developed an idea that would basically create an 80-team Super League. The 70 Power 5 teams, plus Notre Dame, SMU, plus another division that can be relegated, like that other football that we don't like on the show and rarely even discuss. So in this proposal, what would happen would be the 70 teams would never be allowed to be relegated. 7 of the 8 10-team divisions would consist of teams that would be locked in, airtight, mother lawsuit that Bill Murray describes on the great movie Wild Things. If you have not seen that, you should go check that out. But 70 teams airtight into this system. The other 10 would be part of a group. We'll just call them the group of 5 because that's just, they're not the group of 5. But from our perspective right now, consider them, those teams, part of that. And the top 10 teams would be in a division, and the rest, and some would be relegated out. There would be 16 teams in a playoff, and a national champion would be settled. There'd be 8 automatic bids and 8 at-larges. And yes, one of those automatic bids would be one of those lesser teams, maybe even more. So That's the general rundown of what this group called College Sports Tomorrow is proposing. Now, in this athletic website, in this athletic story, they do mention that this is grassroots. This is still far, far, far from being even realistic. So, first things first, what this means is, hey, they've got this idea. Hey, it's not gaining any traction. Let's leak it to the media, to somebody who will publish it, even though they know they'll be used as a PR mouthpiece. Ultimately, that's the start of it. That's the genesis of it. I've worked in this business a long time. I know how a lot of this stuff works. There's a lot of stuff that we know about as members of the media that are PR pitches that are used to save entities or organizations or ideas that are on the downswing. So ultimately, let's start that's what this is. Now, the outlet's not going to admit to it. Other outlets wouldn't admit to it either. They might not know, and that's fine. But that's ultimately why a group like College Sports Tomorrow would let this news get out when they know, and everybody knows, that this has not been received very well. And we'll get down to why and proof that it has not been received well a little bit more. So I hate this. I hate this idea of the College Sports Tomorrow group where you would have 8-10 team divisions, one of which could be relegated. You'd have 16 playoff teams and all the, and guess what it is? It's the NFL. I hate the NFL in terms of how they operate. I hate them. Why would a champion of any given conference or any given league be awarded an automatic bid? Because not all divisions, not all leagues are created equal. And yeah, in the pro realm, it makes a little more sense because there is more parity. There is more systems in place, like the worst team getting the best draft pick, that can equalize things. You don't have that in college sports. That is a pipe dream in college sports. College sports, they're beautifully dysfunctional, and they cannot be replicated by anybody. And look at this story and see who's involved in this air quote super league. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell's top lieutenant, the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, and other school presidents. They don't mention who. You know what those guys care about? Well, A, they care about money. We all know that. But B, they want it to look like what they have. These people in charge of this College Sports Tomorrow group, they want it to look like pro sports. And college football should never look like pro sports. It can't. You have different revenue distribution. You have different needs. You have different conferences. You have all different types of programs all over the spectrum. They're not equal. They never will be equal. So why treat them as equal? You shouldn't. You can't. And that's why this College Sports Tomorrow proposal will fail. There are also other reasons that it will fail. There's an unequal revenue distribution as part of this, meaning that Notre Dame, Alabama, we talked about Notre Dame a couple days ago, how they are by far the most desirable program in terms of television revenue, and it's not even close. But teams like Notre Dame, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, all of them would get unequal revenue. Guess what that creates? That creates jealousy, that creates angst, that creates animosity, and that creates a bunch of pissed off athletic directors because they can't get into the cool kid club. They can't get into the fraternity party that has the best college band on any given night because they don't have the money. You're still going to separate the haves and the have-nots in this system. They're just going to do it under the disguise of being equal in this 80-team Super League. So that's one of the biggest problems. It's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that it doesn't make any sense, and you're treating this like the professional sports world. Now, how do we know that this is failing? How do we know that the powers that be of this College Sports Tomorrow group are desperate? Well, the ACC took a meeting with them in February. You know who canceled dinners with this group? The Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC. You do not, as a business person, try to secure a deal with somebody else and cancel dinner. And certainly 3 different groups don't do that. And I understand why the ACC would do it. The ACC is in shambles. We all know the ACC is in shambles. It's just trying to save itself. It's got its 2 biggest properties ready to leave and trying to leave as quickly as possible. So hell yeah, the ACC wants to have that meeting. There's no reason not to. The other 3, they're not. Why would they take that meeting? They're sitting there looking at the ACC going, oh, there's blood in the water. There's blood in the water. That conference might not make it. So why would we change the entire landscape of college athletics if we can improve ourselves by getting some of those teams? By the Big 12 going after Clemson, going after Florida State, going after Miami, the SEC going after those teams, the Big 10 looking at what, Syracuse or whatever. Of course they're not. Of course the SEC, the Big 10 and the Big 12 are going to avoid this because they feel like what's healthier for them. And as we've seen over the course of the last 2 months, the SEC and the Big 10 only care about themselves. Of course, they're going to wait and see what happens with the ACC. They're not going to shake up the system because it means more money to their member institutions. And the Big 12, with Ninja Commissioner Brett Yormark, because he's very, very good at what he does, is going to go along with it because, yeah, he's not making as much money as the other 2, but he can come close if he gets some of these ACC teams that are on the brink of leaving. And so, yes, this College Sports Now thing is going to be an absolute joke to them, which gets back to the original point. The reason this became public is because it is on the brink of collapse. And powerful people in powerful organizations like the NFL and NBA being a part of this makes it embarrassing when it fails. So this College Sports Tomorrow 80-team Super League is horrible in terms of what it wants to do to college sports. It wants to eliminate conferences that have been around for more than a century. It wants to increase automatic bids for conference champions. It wants to completely eradicate which teams are in which conferences to begin with. And it wants it to be more like the NFL. College sports, specifically college football, cannot be like the NFL. Not all conferences are created equal. These 10-team conferences would never be created equal. And how do I know this? Because they already talked about unequal revenue distribution, which is why we're dysfunctional right now to begin with. Don't buy into this nonsense. Don't buy into this nonsense. Now, I will say this. I'm a traditionalist. I think the postseason expansionist complex, which is what we're calling it, we trademarked that. We've got a military industrial complex in this country. We've got a censorship industrial complex in this country. Now we have a postseason expansionist complex. I hate it. I don't like it. I wish it wouldn't exist, but it does. And it will have major impact on college athletics. This specific proposal won't, but others will. And for me, not being part of the postseason expansionist complex, I wish it wouldn't happen. But reality is, it's going to. So I'm willing to accept that these conversations are being had. I'm willing to accept that there are groups of people trying to figure out how to involve all of these issues, bring them together for a healthier college football and college athletic scene. Fully on board with that. I don't like it, but I've accepted a long time ago. If you guys have listened to my SiriusXM show, if you've read what I've written for a very, very long time, I have conceded the election. All right. I'm like a politician that's getting his butt kicked in the primaries. I get it. I lost. You guys can move forward, and I will help figure out how to move forward. This ain't it. But there will be another proposal. There will be many proposals. There will be many ideas floated around, some of them bad, some of them good. And I will help. I'll tell you what I think of them. Might not like them, but I'll tell you what I think of them. All right. Let's look at stock up versus stock down. This is a very easy radio segment. Everybody does it, but we might as well do it, right? Why not? All right, stock up Nebraska. Dylan Raiola coming over. The fact that Matt was able to secure that kind of player has made and will continue to make a massive, massive impact on high school recruiting and, more importantly, transfer portal recruiting. I think Nebraska might hit it big in the early transfer or the second transfer period, which starts in 11 days. It's sneaking up quick, right? Now, will some of his players, some of the guys that he signed, like Raiola, stick around for 4 years, 3 years, 1 year? That's difficult to say, especially in this day and age. But the fact that Matt Rule made that big of an impact, he made that big of a statement, shows other recruits that, hey, you know what? Nebraska might be an option. Let's have that conversation. When's the last time we had a conversation about Nebraska in the recruiting world? Tommy Frazier? Has it been that long? Yeah, it has actually been that long. So stock up Nebraska, stock down Washington. I had them in the playoff before, right after the national championship game. Thought about it. I'm dumb. You guys who yelled at me, you're smart. You're good looking. I'm not. If you put Will Rogers as your quarterback, if you think Will Rogers is going to be your savior in an offense that under Kalen DeBoer stretched the field, under Jed Fish, we'll see. Will can't run. He can't really stretch the field. If you've watched some of his games in the SEC, I mean, they were embarrassingly bad. Now, I know he's got all these records, but that's more due to the fact that he was in Mike Leach's offense. So stock down Washington going into the Big Ten. It's just not going to work. The more I thought about it, the more crazy it sounds that they're going to be competitive in the Big Ten. Stock up Ole Miss. And you guys know about my Ole Miss love here. You know all about my Ole Miss love here. That team's going to make the playoff. That team's going to have one of the most dynamic offenses in the entire country, maybe the most dynamic offense in the entire country. And their defense, especially with Nolan in, is going to do enough to get them to the playoff and make them capable of maybe getting to the Final Four. Because Lane's method is obvious. The way Lane operates works for him. And that is find speed, find quickness, find players who disrupt in the opposition backfield, and then let it rip offensively. Absolutely can do that. Ooh, Mississippi State, you cannot. Not sold on Jeff Lebby. I understand that he's this offensive genius. Is it too much too soon to be a head coach? Yeah, I think so. And Blake Shapen, I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't know if that's going to work. Not in that system. Stock up Oklahoma State. You know I love Oklahoma State. You know I love Oklahoma State. Veteran offensive line, good quarterback situation, probably the best running back in the entire country. Big 12. Why not the Big 12? Why not Oklahoma State? Utah? Sure, we can make an argument about Utah. Fine, totally on board with that. But great coach in Mike Gundy, underrated coach in Mike Gundy. That team's going to make the playoff. Mark my words, that team's going to make the playoff. Last team, Stockdown, Miami. I know you have wide receivers all over the place. I know you have experience. You have a coach who can't manage the clock. And yes, your running back situation is not as healthy as you try to make it out to me on Twitter. And look, Kane's Twitter, y'all are great at the internet. Ooh, interneting, y'all do it. Y'all do it well. But you think you're going to compete in the ACC? Nah. I don't see it. I think that team is 4th, 5th best in the ACC. We mentioned on yesterday's show, Clemson, Florida State, 1 and 2, put them wherever you want. I think SMU should be in that mix. Virginia Tech should be in that mix. If you don't know why I feel that way, go look at Wednesday's episode of College Football Smothered and Covered. You will understand. And if I don't convince you, just wait. Just wait, because it's happening. That'll do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. I appreciate you guys checking out the show. Please give us 5 stars, Apple, Spotify, subscribe to YouTube, Rumble, or give us 1 star. Let us know why you hate the channel. Let us know why you hate the show. Try to make it better for you. Go Braves. Talk to you soon.